Did my card go through?
Oh no.
Your small business depends on its internet, so switch to Verizon Business. And you could get LTE business internet starting at $39 a month when paired with select business mobile plans. That's unlimited data for unlimited business.
There we go.
Get the internet you need at the price you want. Verizon Business. Starting price for LTE business internet, 25 megabits per second, unlimited data plan with select Verizon Business smartphone plan savings. Terms apply.
Welcome back to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainer-writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings on the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and whose musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can still listen to on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. And Drew, I gotta say, I'm still in denial about you and Charles ceasing production of Light the Fuse. As far as I'm concerned, you two guys are pulling a Larry David. I mean, how many years were there between season 8 and 9 of Curb Your Enthusiasm? 5?
It's true. And there's still a lot of people we want to talk to. So hopefully there's more in the future.
Yeah, well, there we go. So that's it, folks. It's coming back. You just have to be patient. Good things come to those who wait. And speaking of good things, later on in today's show, we have a lengthy interview with Alan Siegel of The Ringer, who's written a terrific new book about the longest-running animated series in prime time. By the way, this book has my favorite title of anything I've read so far in 2025. It is Stupid TV, Be More Funny: How the Golden Era of The Simpsons Changed Television and America Forever. Anyway, we'll be talking in depth with Alan about the early days of The Simpsons, how Homer, Marge, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie went from being crudely drawn characters who appeared in interstitials on the Tracey Ullman Show to becoming the center of this white-hot pop culture phenomenon. But before Drew and I get to that interview, we first have to discuss this week's news and animation. And as always, news portion of Fine Tuning is brought to you by UnlockedMagic.com, which is where you can get real discounts on Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando tickets, sometimes upwards of 12% off. And just so you know, Unlocked Magic is run by the exact same team behind the DVC rental store and the DVC resale market. Just pick your dates, grab your tickets, and then you're on your way with more cash to spend on tickets to go see The Bad Guys 2. And which brings us to the box office news for this week, Drew. So I guess it's clear that some folks went out this past weekend to see that DreamWorks animation film. It's number 2 domestically, right? Behind Fantastic Four?
Yeah, I think it made something like 22 million. I think, we're doing this on Sunday morning, so the numbers are still coming in. But
this is true.
Which is lower than the first film, which is not great.
Well, but incrementally. I mean, that movie, which opened back in April of 2022, made 23.9 million. And as Drew was mentioned, we're just have the estimated numbers at this point. It's 22.8. So what?
Right,
1,000,001.
It's just weird because in the years between movies, we've had 2 Christmas specials. Mm-hmm. It's been playing on Netflix. I was hoping that this one would be like decidedly more, and to kind of solidify this as one of DreamWorks' next big franchises. Mm-hmm. Although there's so little in the way of kids stuff in the next few months. Mm-hmm. So I think it could be one of those, movies that legs out, kind of like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
There we go.
It just stuck around, and it stuck around and all that. So, yeah. That's what I'm hoping.
Now, toward that end, as Drew mentioned, look, the folks at Universal did have higher hopes for The Bad Guys 2 debut. In fact, it was pointedly the first film of the franchise opened in spring, and this one, opened in summer during blockbuster season. But at the same time, I mean, very, very disciplined on the production side. I mean, did you see where the cost of making this one is pretty much on par with the first one? I guess they spent $80 million. I mean, it's not Illumination's production numbers, but it's still, in comparison,
it's close. I mean,
close.
Illumination is like 75 usually. Yeah, and they did farm out a couple of sequences including the big luchador sequence to Sony Pictures Animation, which did a great job.
They did. And it's worth noting that the first film then in this franchise went on to do $250 million worldwide, and evidently the thinking, at Comcast, NBC Universal is Bad Guys 2 will basically do the same level of business, and then after its theatrical release, be a solid addition to the Peacock film library. So long story short, not everything has to be a home run. Sometimes a single and a double are good. That said, if we pivot back to Paramount's new Smurf movie, which is now number 9 in the top 10. It's 15 days into its theatrical run, and to date it has only sold $27 million worth of tickets in North America, which, if we look all the way back to the original Smurfs movie, and Drew was just mentioning Sony Pictures Animation, they did that film back in 2011. Opened in basically the same window of time, Drew, late July, early August, and 15 days into its North American run, it had sold 91 million worth of tickets in North America.
And that was without Rihanna, Jim. They didn't even have Rihanna that first movie.
It's so interesting you bring that up. For me, it's fascinating to watch, Smurfette in the first two, Smurfs from 2011 and Smurfs 2 in 2013, that was Katy Perry. Then if we jump ahead to 2017, to Smurfs The Lost Village, we got Demi Lovato. And now here we are with Rihanna. And I mean, I get it. I get why you'd want to do that. I mean, it's kind of a twofer with a female pop star voicing Smurfette. That at least guarantees you a single on your soundtrack that might track.
Right. But it was very funny because I was at the first CinemaCon where they announced this, and they were like, she's doing all the songs. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, she's doing one song and she's producing song. I mean, it was like they kept walking back her involvement. It was very, very funny. Yeah.
And well, speaking of walking back, I mean, it was interesting again, just using sort of this metric of where a film was 15 days into its North American release. And again, first movie by this point, 15 days, 91 million in North America. Second Smurf movie, 2013, 51, the $40 million fall off. Then I want to say, what was it? Lost Village, was that 29? 29 million. And so here we are at 27. So fairly par. I mean, if we're going to talk about, how Bad Guys 1 and Bad Guys 2 are just 100.1 million off on their opening weekends. I guess we can, say 2 million separating them. So, but, it's just interesting. It was on the Lost Village doing that sort of business that Sony decided they wouldn't go forward with a fourth, right? They let the film rights lapse, and those wound up in the hands of Paramount, right?
Yeah. And, there's many reasons to make a movie. They could have been, the rights could be like, we hear all these things where it's like the movie had to be made to ensure that the rights were maintained because, 2017 is a while ago at this point, almost a decade ago. So I'm sure that there was a ticking clock on this thing of like, you got to make the movie or the rights are going away. So
I remember hearing that story right after Disney bought Marvel, and the folks at Sony are like, hurry up, make the Spider-Man movie. Go, go, go.
Yes.
All right. Anyway, okay, so we're talking Katy Perry, we're talking Demi Lovato, we're talking Rihanna. I mean, again, look, there's a reason you get celebrities to be in your film, to voice characters, and not just because they're good at being those particular characters, but if you've got a Jason Bateman or a Jennifer Goodwin, again, they can do Colbert, they can do Fallon, and they can make people aware that your movie, Zootopia 2, is coming out just around Thanksgiving this year, which brings us to the trailer that dropped this past week. What did you think, Drew?
I liked it. I really love that teaser. So I thought this was kind of a step down. But
Thank you.
You know, yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I want this thing to succeed. And by the way, I heard an interesting thing from a friend at the studio about why this trailer was the way it was. Face it, this is a mystery. And the whole Gary, the snake character, what is it? Ki-Hu Kwan is voicing in this thing.
Yep.
It was one of these things when they began to try to cut it together, they realized like, oh, crud. We're going to give away the movie. So that's why we ended up in the therapy session for as long as we did with that trailer. More to the point, if you remember from the teaser, that guy with the hood that makes the dramatic appearance in this.
Yes.
No, in no way involved in this trailer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, what's so funny is that when I talked to Jared at Annecy, he was like, people die in this one. And it's like, oh, cool. Yes. And then it's like the trailer is like the most upbeat, kind of like fun, thing. So, I think it's going to be a little bit of maybe a tonal whiplash when you see the movie and it's a little bit darker. But they showed part of a really amazing chase through this kind of swamp land, which they showed at Annecy. That was just wonderful. And all the footage I've seen is just great. So yeah, I really am looking forward to this. I'm going to try to visit their scoring next month.
Okay.
So I'm going to try to visit and see Michael and the gang. And so, yeah, it's all coming together, Jim.
Now, so speaking of which, though, and speaking of trailers, did you see the latest trailer for Tron Ares with the giant recognizer floating through the city, being
so good?
Oh so my good. God! Yeah, and the light cycle.
I'm so ready.
Well, no, that's it exactly. I know. This is the thing. When I contrast the latest Zootopia 2 trailer to the Tron Ares trailer, I mean, I watched the Tron Ares trailer. I become the Philip J. Fry meme. I literally am just, shut up, take my money. I want to see that movie now.
And the Avatar trailer that came out this week too was so wonderful.
I'm going to say, yes, it looks good, but it's not a Tron Ares. I mean, Tron Ares looks killer.
Wow.
So now, but on the other hand, I mean, there are just projects that for some reason that you just can't explain, don't just catch on with the public. They then become these white, hot cultural phenomenons. And case in point, K-pop Demons. And I want to remind folks that this animated musical debuted on Netflix back on June 20th. So this has only been 6.5 weeks at this point. So what is it? More than 130 million views globally. It's now what? The most watched animated movie ever on that streamer?
Yep, and it'll enter the most watched top 10, I think, this week. And I think it's like coming in at maybe, it'll be close to like the top 5, I think, when it enters the top 10 Netflix movies of all time. So
now, by the way, folks, if you go over to the Wrap, Drew has written an absolutely killer piece about K-pop Demon Hunters, and which discusses Netflix future plans for this franchise. And can you get into the specifics? Because this has gotten very crazy very fast.
Yes. Well, yeah. I don't know how much I could say, but let's just say that everyone at Netflix was fine with the article until after it came out. And then I was issued a correction. So, I had heard, they were looking at spin-off series, a short film, and the whole kind of thesis of the article is that it's the next Frozen. It's Netflix's Frozen, basically.
Which is a lovely thing to have, right?
Yes. And when I was actually at a Netflix event this week, and I said, I have this article coming out. It's about K-pop Demon Hunters being the next Frozen. And literally people from Netflix are going, that's what we're all calling it. And I said, yes, I know. I did my research. I talked to people, of course.
Yeah.
But and then two sequels. Now, where it got contentious was that I was hearing that they were floating the idea of a live-action remake, which got a very heated response from people online. And that's when someone from Netflix said, oh, actually, we're not thinking about it. And it's like, well, when I called you 2 days ago, it was fine.
Yeah.
No, it's not. And I wonder if they were kind of like, measuring the feedback of that piece of news, and I'm fine to be used as the canary in the coal mine. But oh, come on. I mean, in the summer, where you've got the live action Lilo and Stitch and the live action, How to Train Your Dragon doing the business that it's doing. Seriously, you're pretending you didn't have that conversation with K-pop Demon Hunters. Yeah.
Of course.
And they said, first of all, they said live action movies aren't typically great, and I said, yeah, but How to Train Your Dragon was because you used Dean Dubois. Like, as long as you use Maggie and Chris, it'll be great, And the other thing is that Netflix has a pretty rich history of turning animated things into live action between Cowboy Bebop, One Piece, Avatar, The Last Airbender. I mean, come on, guys. It's not a stretch here.
No. But again, well, sorry you got used there. Just sort of like, hey, walk this out for us. Do our market research for us, okay?
Right. But I mean, the big thing that I think is kind of getting missed is that they haven't made deals yet for Maggie and Chris, which is like so stupid. Like, get on it, guys. I don't understand it.
Now, did you get similar feedback? Because remember, the live action thing isn't the only other way they're eyeballing possibly expanding the K-pop Demon Hunters franchise. I mean, your article does mention potentially a stage musical, right?
Yes, and I don't know if you saw this, Jim, but last night at Lollapalooza, Twice, which is a K-pop band that 3 of the members voiced the girls' singing voices.
Oh!
They actually did a musical number, and then Netflix had a drone show over the top of the stage that said, "The Han Moon is closed," and it showed the kind of ripple of the wave over the audience, and I was like, this is a little bit of a, trial balloon for a live action, a live stage component to this. So yes, yeah.
No. Well, anyway, folks, killer piece. If you want the full details, Hey, did you do a rewrite with the denial?
Yeah, I did. I put the denial in there, which then everybody picked up. Which is like, I think people were reading between the lines and said, all these people said, we did it. We killed the live action. Number one, I don't think you did entirely. No. But that is certainly the Netflix response. So,
okay.
Take that as you will.
There you go. All right. Anyway, folks, if we were to jump back 35 years, you know what? Other set of animated characters were having a similar moment, becoming the center of a white-hot pop culture phenomena. That was The Simpsons. And when we get back from this break, Drew and I will talk with Alan Siegel from The Ringer about how Homer, Marge, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie, not to mention Krusty the Clown, Sideshow Bob, and Barney Gumble, went from being America's temporary obsessions to a genuine television institution. But first,
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue. Subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Hey, it's Paris. I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and Auto Camp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, "It's my classroom, you're just learning in it." And preppy polos that say, "I'm the teacher's pet," even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there's one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
And we're back. Apologies for getting to this party a little late. The book that Drew and I are about to discuss actually came out early June, mid-June. It still has my favorite title of all the books I've read so far this year, which is Stupid TV, Be More Funny. How the golden era of The Simpsons changed television and America forever. And the author of this 304-page hardcover, which was published by Grand Central Publishing, by the way, Alan Siegel joins us now. And Alan, you're a senior staff writer with The Ringer, is that right?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Again, absolute pleasure. I mean, I love this book. I mean, as somebody who grew up watching The Simpsons, back when they weren't even a show, but rather the interstitials on the Tracey Ullman thing, I mean, I thought I knew a lot about this long-running animated series, which, by the way, folks, just finished its 36th season back in May of this year. And more notably, and Drew and I talked about this earlier on Fine Tuning, back in April of this year, The Simpsons, along with Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, and American Dad, got a 4-season renewal? Is that right, Drew?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So that actually means that The Simpsons are going to be with us through 2029, which will be their 40th season of television. And again, I'm old, so I remember when once upon a time the hope was The Simpsons might stay on the air long enough to beat Gunsmoke, which had 20 seasons on CBS, 635 episodes.
We were all waiting for them to hit that Gunsmoke number. Yeah, exactly.
But
it
now,
never ends.
No, but 790 episodes. Anyway, Alan's great book takes us all the way back to the beginning of this long-running animated series, back when no one thought that The Simpsons would actually succeed. I mean, didn't Fox make the deal with James Brooks because, they just wanted to keep him making movies at their studio, right?
Yeah, that was basically the gist of it. Like they would do anything to keep Brooks around because he had like this golden touch at the time. And Brooks installed all these people around him to make The Simpsons who were brilliant, especially like Sam Simon. And Sam Simon was like so jaded by TV at the time that his saying was basically 13 and out. We have a 13 episode order. We're going to make 13 great episodes and then probably be done. Like in his mind, there would be no renewal. It just would be that one basically half season and that's it.
Well, and you said the quiet part out loud that, again, from the book, you say that Sam said, we're 13 and out and we might as well make them great. And that's the thing, though, that first half season, so to speak, again, it was sort of set the table. And again, I learned so much about this animated series from reading Stupid TV, Be More Funny. So again, thanks for coming on the show. So now, in the introduction of this book, you talk about how your own obsession with this TV show started because, all right, so your parents let you watch The Simpsons only, the introductory episode was Homer's Night Out, and then there were some problems?
Yeah, so Homer's Night Out was the episode that my parents watched to see if it would be appropriate for me. And in the episode, Homer kind of gets caught with a belly dancer, which is like very tame in hindsight. Like later they talked about that episode, and like the thing is like Homer kind of gets busted in the episode for like, again, dancing with the belly dancer, but like on network TV that didn't quite work because like there was nothing to get outraged about. Like it's not like he was with a stripper or something. So my parents watched it. They thought it was a little advanced for a second grader and they kind of banned it for a while. And then like after a month, they were like, you know what? this is fine. Just watch. Like it was so damn popular that they were like over it, and they were like, okay, you can watch. And it's funny. A minute ago, I wanted to back up. You mentioned sort of the quiet part loud, right? That phrase. Do you know where that phrase is from?
No.
It's it's a Simpsons joke.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's Krusty the Clown, and he's talking about Mr. Burns at a film festival paying him off for a good review, and Krusty's like, let's see if I can get the quote right off the top of my head. It's like it moved me to a bigger house. And he goes, oops. He goes, I said the quiet part loud and the loud part quiet. And like, that's just a good example of like, I'm definitely jumping ahead here, but like, I say stuff about, in my daily life that I forget is from The Simpsons. Like that's how much it's in our brains right now.
No, totally. And it's just so weird how it leaks in. I mean, things like I call the big one Bitey are just part of the Stadler Hill lexicon here at the house. But again, what I just love about this, again, I'm a longtime Simpsons enthusiast, but again, in your research, like for example, where Matt Groening actually got Homer's name from, like, seriously? Day of the Locust?
Right, Day of the Locust, and it's his father's name. So
right. Oh my God, though. All right, but again, what's great about this book, folks, is that Stupid TV, Be More Funny puts you right back there in the rough and tumble early days of The Simpsons. Like, for example, you talk about how the recording booth for the original interstitials was this slapped together thing that was built, behind the bleachers at the Tracey Ullman Show?
Yeah, it was just like a closet, essentially. A glorified closet.
I can relate being in this closet right now.
There you go.
Yeah. Improperly zoned for a washer dryer.
You have a nice wooden
closet.
paneling in the background. So
It's true.
This is true. Now, talk about, the early, you have that wonderful story about how the folks at Klasky Chupo made the decision to make The Simpsons yellow and what that supposedly had to do with Fox being a brand new television network.
So it was, again, this kind of reminds me of what a lot of the writers said about the show, like, which is a lot of this stuff was just not planned. It was like very spur of the moment, and like Klasky Chupo is this like little animation studio, and James L. Brooks was like, oh, we're gonna make these little shorts in black and white because it's cheap. And Gabor Chupo, who is like an immigrant from Hungary who like suffered no fools and like was not in a good way, like was not deferential. It was like, okay, we're going to do this in color. And he basically got Brooks to let him do it by saying like, yeah, we'll just do it for the same price as black and white. And James L. Brooks was like, okay. And they had a colorist who was like, let's just make the characters yellow. I mean, it's insane. Like the simple goal was to just get people to stop and watch. Like when you see these things now, it's so ingrained in us, like the Simpsons yellow coloring, but back then it was like, oh, this is bizarre, it's weird, and like that was the goal, to get people to stop in their tracks and watch.
And as you mentioned in the book, James L. Brooks not initially happy with this decision when he sees it, but at the same time, let's be honest here, he wasn't happy when the first episode came out of the production pipeline, Some Enchanted Evening.
Yeah, and they this was a common practice back then, that animated shows would start the animation process in the States, and to save money would do the rest overseas. And so Simpsons had a South Korean studio, and they get this first episode back. It was Some Enchanted Evening, which was an episode that there was like an evil babysitter who was really an ex-con or a escaped convict, who was voiced by Penny Marshall. And the jokes were off when the tape came back. The color was off. Everything just like wasn't in sync because the animators in Korea like didn't quite know the style. And there was like a feeling in the room when they screened it where they were like, the show might be canceled. Like this might be over. Like it might be done. And it was kind of miraculous that they're like, all right, let's stick it out. And then the next couple episodes that came back, just thanks to like animators like David Silverman, like were really much better, much sharper, funnier, warmer. And like one of those was the Christmas special, which turned into the first episode of the series.
Well, now, speaking of Christmas, you tell a wonderful story in the book about how The Simpsons actually went from being an interstitial in the Tracey Ullman Show to a standalone animated series. And I think James L. Brooks starts the story by saying, it began like many things, began with an animator getting drunk at a Christmas party.
Yeah, you know, when I found that story, it was pretty amazing. So basically, David Silverman, who again is a hero of the show, like approached Brooks at a Christmas party and was like, this should be a show. This should be a full show. It should be more than just these little dinky, you know, but funny shorts, which like had the sort of chaotic DNA of the show, but were so thin. Like Lisa back then was basically just Bart with like a different haircut, you know, and that sort of put this idea in Brooks's head that like this could be something more.
Well, now I love that you brought up David Silverman, because think about it. I mean, David started doing the interstitials again for the Tracey Ullman thing. And now if you jump ahead 35 years, I mean, he's the guy who does all those wonderful Simpsons shorts for Disney Plus. I mean, just he's been in the saddle that long.
Yeah, I mean, the show has such an interesting lineage of these incredible animators. I mean, he has sort of stuck around. But if you look at sort of the diaspora of the animation, like Drew and I have talked about this, like Brad Bird and Jim Reardon and Rich Moore.
Oh, yeah.
Like these are titans of the business, of the industry. And like it sort of makes sense that they started on this show that was so groundbreaking visually at the time. Like, again, I didn't understand this when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, but like it really was different. I mean, I'm sure you guys have talked about this, but like in the late 80s, late 80s, a little bit even into the early 90s, like animation was for hacks. Like it was on TV, especially. It was like My Little Pony and He-Man, or at least that was the perception of it. Unfairly, probably, but like there wasn't, the Disney Renaissance had just started. Like it was not commonplace yet.
Now, it's so interesting you bring up My Little Pony and He-Man, because face it, those were shows that merchandise drove, as in that they were promoting a merchandise line, and there's an animated series. Where with The Simpsons, it was the inversion. And in fact, think about it, starting December of 89, this suddenly becomes this white-hot pop culture phenomenon with this tidal wave of merch. I mean, can you tell the story about the merch buyer at Macy's, the frantic call from her?
Yeah, so I talked to a marketing exec at the time, and he said he once got a call. This was like mid-1990s, so like maybe 6 months into the run of the show. They were selling things like just absolute hotcakes, like every product imaginable. And like Macy's called them and were like, we need more shirts because people are buying them like out of the boxes when they come in. Like that's how intense they were. And like 6 months before that, right before the show premiered, this marketing exec was tasked with getting a Bart balloon in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. And Macy's was like, what the hell are you talking about? We don't know what this is. Like the Tracey Ullman Show. And then like, November 1990, there was a Bart balloon, and I don't know about continuity or like what, but for a long time, there were Simpsons balloons in that parade.
Oh, yeah. But actually, the moment I love from that era isn't there a Thanksgiving episode where Bart and Homer are standing in front of the television, and, Bart's making a joke to the effect of, all of these old cartoon characters that nobody knows, who watches this parade? And at that moment in the background, we see the Bart balloon go by. So
the meta nature of that is very like early Simpsons. For sure.
No, absolutely. But again, back to the merchandise side of things, $750 million worth of merch sold in 1990 alone, which was one of the things that convinced the powers that be at Fox to move The Simpsons from Sunday night to Thursday night and to go head to head with the show of the era, The Cosby Show on NBC. And as you point out in the book, even James L. Brooks was against this idea, right?
Yeah. So the metaphor I've been making, and maybe this is just because I work at The Ringer, is like, so you had like Barry Diller and Rupert Murdoch, these like big muckety mucks at Fox, and they were like convinced that going against The Cosby Show would completely legitimize, or The Simpsons going against The Cosbys, like would legitimize the show, and it would legitimize the network. And the people that made The Simpsons were like, what are you thinking about? Like, this is an insane idea. Like, we have this thing that is an absolute rocket ship, and we're going to try to slow it down. Like that's what could happen. And it was kind of miraculous that, like, it went toe to toe with the Cosby Show. It was, maybe beat it a few times, but just the fact that it could hang with them was a victory. And like that, again, it strengthened their position as a network. I don't know how to quantify that, but it definitely was a feeling that they had.
Okay. And I guess the other thing that I find fascinating about this early period of The Simpsons is James L. Brooks' approach to the product. I mean, can you talk about what he told the production team about how they were supposed to be treating Bart and Homer and Marge, and that was not like they were cartoon characters, right?
Right. And I just want to finish my thought about the metaphor working at the Ringer. Like it was basically like a sports team that was criticized for not playing like the best competition on the way to a championship. Like the Simpsons wanted to beat all the good teams basically to do that. So Brooks was really smart with how he wanted the Simpsons to be portrayed. So on one side of the show, you had this really transgressive, subversive streak, this sort of anti-authority, especially with Bart, who like would swear at adults and be very irreverent, which is very different at the time. But Brooks was like adamant that he wanted to counterbalance the show with a grounding. He wanted it to be pretty much like governed by the rules of actual like human physics, and also like he wanted the family to be a typical American family. He wanted to show them going to church every week, which even shows that like you could argue are quote unquote conservative or sort of lean more that way or more traditional didn't do that. And so it was an interesting approach, right? So you could have something very subversive and also sort of counterbalance or launder it with this thing that was very wholesome. And I think that's sort of like the magic formula of the show.
Got it. Okay. Tell you what, folks, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we get back, we're going to have Alan talk about how The Simpsons went, again, from being this white, hot pop culture phenomenon to a TV institution. But first, this.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso Virtuo Coffee Machines. Ready to enjoy the bold flavors of barista-quality Nespresso iced coffee at home? Simply fill a glass with ice and press the brew button on your Virtuo Pop machine to enjoy rich double espressos roasted to stand up even when chilled. Refreshingly bold iced coffee. Refreshingly easy to make at home. Visit Nespresso.com to shop now.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. Okay, again, Drew and I are talking with Alan Siegel about his terrific new book, Stupid TV, Be More Funny, how the golden era of The Simpsons changed television and America forever, which Grand Central Publishing sent out into the world in early to mid-June of this year. But again, terrific book. And like I said, first half of this interview, I thought I knew a lot about The Simpsons already, but I loved your eye for detail, Alan. For example, how embiggen and cromulent, the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, one went in 2018 and the other one went in 2023, or the Disney nerd in me loves that Baby on Board was actually recorded for Homer's Barbershop Quartet episode, season 5, by the Dapper Dans, Disneyland's resident barbershop quartet. But again, you did such an amazing job of, can't believe the number of people you get to talk with, and then how you sort of break out how individual members of the Simpsons creative team impacted the show. Like, can you talk about how Mr. Burns was originally supposed to look a lot like Mr. Spacely in the Jetsons?
Yeah, so he was supposed to be this like little squat guy, as if anybody's watched the Jetsons. But the thing is Sam Simon was like, no. So Sam Simon, I'm sure people know, but an executive producer on the show, he ran the show the first 2 years, just like a polymath or jack of all trades. Like he was like, no, let's make him like bird-like, and like stretch him out. And he just like doodled an early Mr. Burns. And he had like a beak for a nose, and it just sort of fit the character in a way. Like Burns was not, there was like nothing lovable about Burns. Like that was the thing. He had no redeeming qualities, and he kind of had to look like that. So that was all Sam Simon.
But that's the interesting thing. The characters did not arrive fully formed. I mean, Dan Castellaneta, if you listen to how he did Homer for like the early interstitials and even the first season of the show, it's kind of Walter Matthau, Oscar Madison, but under John Swartzwelder, this character, as you explained, I think, loses some IQ points and becomes more canine-like, right?
Yeah, so to trace it, like Castellaneta did Homer as Walter Matthau, but it like strained his voice so much that he lightened it up to like more of his regular voice.
Okay.
And so if anybody doesn't know, John Swartzwelder is this legendary writer who kind of looks like David Crosby, who chain smoked, who had weird like health regimens. Like he would have these like theories. Like he had a doctor who said the best way to stay fit is to run really fast and then stop, and then run really fast and then stop again. And he like drove a Datsun that like overheated a lot. And so Swartzwelder like had all these theories about how to write for the show that were like these sort of just simple poetry. Like he said, The Simpsons is like a drama done by stupid people. And he said that like he would like to write Homer like a giant talking dog who is just lazy and kind of like lethargic and would also kill for his family. And that's sort of like how he imagined Homer. And like as the show went on, that's what Homer became.
I heard Conan talk one time about how stupid to make Homer, and he was like, if he's eating out of the garbage, we've gone too far.
Yeah, like Conan, so I interviewed Conan for an article about the show, and we just kind of went deep, and I had all the stuff that he said, and he said it'd be like, he brought up the monorail episode that he wrote, and it was like Homer will occasionally sound like just so like almost like poetic, like Charlton Heston. It'll be like, when two friends come together, not even God can stop us or something like that. And then sometimes he'll forget to breathe, and it's like these two things that are just like the dichotomy of it is hilarious. Or he'll, he doesn't know how to breathe, yet he knows what Vassar College is. Like he'll reference that. And it's like, I think they're just like sort of playing with the rules and then breaking them, No.
Speaking of the Conan stuff in the book, I love the story you tell about how Marge versus the monorail grew out of two obsessions he had as a kid. One was the Music Man and the other was Irwin Allen movies?
Yeah, exactly. So he loved, I think he imagined himself as like the Music Man. That was one thing, which, in the episode it's Phil Hartman. So that's a perfect thing. And like he loved these disaster movies, and it's sort of a little distillation of like what The Simpsons was, which was the good side of watching too much TV. So he inhaled all this stuff, movies, TV, music, and like those writers together could like synthesize it and like put it through a machine, and out pops out this thing that's like so smart. And but it also pays tribute to the thing they're making fun of. Like they sort of knew these TV tropes like the back of their hand.
Well, now, speaking of which, you talk about TV tropes and how The Simpsons, for example, when they decided to do a very special episode, well, that's how we got Treehouse of Horror, right?
So again, going back to like the beginning of the show, which was this, they had this directive to make every episode different from the last. And I think it was Jake Hogan and Wallace Wolodarski. They were like, let's do like a horror anthology. And people were kind of like, I don't know about that. And then like, if you think about how sort of different that was, they had the first Treehouse of Horror had a not a parody. It had an adaptation of The Raven, like Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, like word for word.
Yep.
Like
good.
imagine that,
So
like
good.
the amount of intellectual sort of bravery you need to have to do that on a show that kids watch is crazy. Like, and that was a sort of a great combo of their humor and also like what animation can do. Like, I think, you guys are an animation podcast, and like the visuals of that show, like the writers, I'm guilty of this too. Like, we deify these writers, but the animators, like, it's equally important.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, and you talk about trying to do different episodes. In fact, I and the show deliberately pushing in different directions, and we saw that especially in season 3 with Like Father, Like Clown. Can you talk about what was different about that episode?
Sure. So it was the first episode that really told the backstory of a side character with Krusty the Clown. It's basically the jazz singer. You find out Krusty's dad was a rabbi, and he's voiced by Jackie Mason. And a normal sitcom probably wouldn't. There wouldn't be an episode on Boner from Growing Pains, like where they like get into his background, or like I don't know, like or some friend from another sitcom. But like they made Krusty, they gave him this story, and I think Mike Reese, who was one of the showrunners that season, was like shocked, I think, at hearing from all these people that love that episode. Like it just was very different, and we take it for granted now, but especially with all the development we get with side characters in The Simpsons, like Sideshow Bob episode every year. Like at the time, it was pretty novel.
Oh, absolutely. But again, one of the other stories that I love from Stupid TV is you talk about, and again, I don't know if your source was vague on this or you're protecting somebody, but can you talk about what happened when they got the note about we need, and this was from somebody on the Simpsons production team, right? That we need now to put a teenager on the show.
Yeah, I was told that it was someone pretty high up. I didn't get a name, unfortunately, but yeah, like someone in like probably like a passing moment. We've all had bosses where we don't quite know, like, does this really have to go in, or does it, or are they just sort of talking off the cuff? But someone was like, we need a teenager in the cast. And so the writers were like, yeah, we'll do that, I think. And then in the episode, Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie, there's a random teenager named Roy who just shows up, and he's like calling Homer Mr. S, and then he just disappears. So they made it into a joke, and it's a classic moment for sure.
No, not just, and again, I know we're talking a lot about this Simpsons here, but what's also great about Stupid TV, Be More Funny, is that toward the end of the book, we get a brief look at all of the other primetime animated series that we got in the wake of the Simpsons. Everything from Family Dog, Capital Critters, Fish Police, right up till King of the Hill, the revival of which debuted on Hulu just yesterday, August 4th. And again, Alan, I learned so much reading this book, and I love your eye for the weird little detail, like for example, how Brian Roberts, member of the Simpsons production team, who worked out of Shirley Temple's old bungalow on the Fox lot, or better yet, that story you tell about we were just talking about Conan O'Brien, about the prank he staged when the writers thought the guy who was doing the food delivery tumbled down the stairs to his death.
That story, I should tell it if anybody hasn't heard it. Like, so it sort of was so it was basically like the writers at the time lived for lunch, because they would spend 12 hours, 13 hours a day at the office, like sometimes hours on single punchlines. And so the one like thing that they had during the day was lunch. And so a PA would bring lunch every day, and it would be like Pavlovian, like, you would hear somebody going up the stairs, and you would hear like the crumpling of papers and stuff, and like the takeout containers, and like people like would start salivating. And it was like their one sort of thing to look forward to during the day. They would order like full pies from the Apple Pan in LA, which is like a burger spot that if anybody's not from LA doesn't know. Anyway, so one day they hear some PA walking up the stairs, and then they hear a scream, and then they hear like somebody falling down the stairs, and they're like, one, is this person okay? And two, are our lunches okay? And so they run outside, And it's Conan O'Brien with a box of trash that he had thrown down the stairs to screw with his coworkers. And like, that is a sign of what life was like in the Simpsons writers' room at the time. Like, people would call it like a frat house, but that sort of overstates, like, these were not cool guys. Like, I appreciate this. They were nerds. It was like a bad dorm room. And yeah, that was one of my favorite stories in the book.
That's like that. Is that in the Poochie episode where they say, "What were you smoking when you came up to this?" And they say, "We were eating rotisserie chicken." That sort of feels like that's the writer's room.
Yeah, it
vibe.
was like throwing mashed potatoes against the ceiling. Like, that's what they would do. Or like Butterfinger BBs, which was like the product that the Simpsons was shilling at the time.
Well, but the other thing, I mean, comedy is all about detail. And what I love about what you tell with that story is Conan had actually saved styrofoam containers. So when the food things were supposedly falling down the stairs, they sounded right.
For verisimilitude. I can't, realistic. That's the word. Yeah.
There we go. But now, speaking of Conan, there's this lovely little passage in the book where Conan actually talks about working on Marge versus the monorail, about driving onto the lot. It's a rainy Saturday, and he works there for a couple of hours, and then he, on his way home, he gets Chinese food, and and sitting alone in a booth with a yellow legal pad, working on the lyrics for the monorail song, and then you do almost a smash cut, and there he is in front of 17,000 people in the Hollywood Bowl, actually on stage singing the monorail song. And that's what's great about this book. There's so much stuff in here from guys who actually worked on the show. And more to the point, when they talk about, when they interact with the public and they learn about how much The Simpsons meant to people. I mean, can you tell the Rich Moore story about the woman and her dad?
Yeah, so Rich Moore, again, amazing animation director. He tells a story about meeting a woman whose dad, I think, was sort of terminally ill, and it was miserable. And then they would have these half-hour breaks where they would watch The Simpsons and laugh, and it would lift them out of this funk for half an hour. And that is the show, I think. It creates these levels of bonding. I mean, I've said this before, but there are two kinds of shows to me. One is like a water cooler show, and that's like Sopranos or Mad Men or Breaking Bad, where you watch an episode, you talk about it the next day. But The Simpsons is like a show that you bond over. It's a secret handshake show. Like you meet someone, you reference The Simpsons, their eyes light up, and you have this moment that you just can't take away. And it's sort of also changed the way we spoke around the water cooler, right? So we have these phrases we talked about, the quiet, saying the quiet part loud, things that sort of are in our subconscious that we don't know. Like, if something's mediocre, we say meh, M-E-H. And The Simpsons didn't make that up, but it was repeated over and over and over. And it's it taught us these things that we didn't even realize we were learning.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Alan, again, this is a great, great book. And look, if you're a fan of The Simpsons or just want to learn more about the history of prime time animated series from the late 1980s to today, get yourself a copy of Stupid TV, Be More Funny, How the Golden Era of The Simpsons Changed Television and America Forever. And again, that book is from Grand Central Publishing. And thanks again, Alan, so much for coming on the show today.
Wait, can we get Alan's favorite episode? I'm very curious.
Yeah.
See, Alan and I are also both the same age, so I understand everything he went through in terms of lobbying the parents. But the merchandise was so prevalent that that was a big driver. Was I got to see why all the cool kids at the mall are wearing Bart Simpson's shirts. So, Alan, please tell us what your favorite episode is. I'm very curious.
Yeah. So really, really quickly, just about the merch, which is funny, is my editors were editing passages of the book, and they were shocked where they were like, wait, all this happened in a 6-month period? And that's what's crazy. The true phenomenon of the show was the first year in terms of explosive popularity and merch. But then again, as you were saying, it sort of settled into being the best show on TV. And so the episode that I pick, which changes monthly, what my favorite episode is I think Mr. Plow is my favorite episode. I think it does everything that the show sort of set out to do, which is be a sitcom that's warm and funny and full of jokes, and also a sitcom that's you couldn't do on like live action TV, like where like a stage bound show could not have an episode in 22 minutes where Homer and Barney could engage in a snowplow battle and end up like on a mountain where there's a homage to Sorcerer, a movie from 1977 that at the time no one knew that movie, and like it was buried by Star Wars. It was probably not out on VHS.
The Freakin', yeah.
And also yes, the Freakin' movie. And Linda Ronstadt has a cameo and Adam West has a cameo. And so you have this like soup of a million ingredients put together and you mix it together and it's hysterical. And that is, I think, like the best example of a Simpsons episode.
That's a great choice.
What's your favorite episode, Jim?
There is the Gabbo episode where Krusty retired. I mean, was that a season 2 or season 3 finale? I think
it's season 4. It's Krusty gets canceled. I mean, I think Mr. Burns at one point is like, Smithers, Garbo is coming.
No, I mean, that one is so ridiculously dense and has some of the sharpest, funniest celebrity cameos on the show. But at the same time, it legitimately has heart. I mean, you really care about what's happening to Krusty. And given what a vile, self-interested individual he is, the fact that you can feel that in the show just says a lot about The Simpsons.
There's a joke in that episode that I think like Alan Sepinwall, the TV critic, discovered like 20 years later, and it's like Gabbo's. You know, he's a ventriloquist dummy, and his tagline or his like catchphrase is "I'm a bad whittle boy," and we didn't realize that it's like whittle wood, you know, like in the closed captioning, and it's like the density of it is crazy.
So good. Oh, that's great. Well, again, Alan, thank you so much for making the time today. And again, great book, folks. Go chase this down.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
That was great. Thanks again to Alan for coming on this week's show. And with that, this edition of Fine Tuning comes to a close. Now, mind you, if you are looking for another fun podcast to listen to, let me remind you, there are nearly 300 episodes of Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. That's a ton to choose from, and everyone's a gem. I mean, Drew and his co-host, Charles Hood, regularly interviewed all sorts of Hollywood greats on that show. I always learn something new whenever I listen to their podcast. Maybe, hopefully, same thing can happen to you if you have listened to some of the other podcasts we offer here at Jim Hill Media. These include Disney Dish with Len Testa, the Epic Universal podcast I do with Eric Hersey. Likewise, I Want That Too, the Disney Merch podcast I do with Eric's lovely bride, Lauren. Also want to remind you about Manufacturing the Magic. That's the themed entertainment history podcast we host here. That's produced by Noah and Shelley Valladolid. A brand new episode of that always excellent series was just posted this past Saturday, August 2nd, and this past Sunday, August 3rd, a brand new episode of Disney Unpacked went live. That's the video series that Len Testa, veteran Imagineer Jim Schul, and I do for Patreon. And this time around, we discussed the history of Test Track at Epcot, and just, we're already hard at work on the next episode of Disney Unpacked. That one will shine a spotlight on the Main Street Opera House in Disneyland and how, for some weird reason, shows that get loaded into that venue then have a hard time connecting with theme park guests. And Drew, want to ask, are we moderating? Are we signing? Is there anything in the upcoming month we can...
I know. I don't have anything going. I mean, I'll say that I don't have anything, and then, somebody will call me tomorrow and be like, well, let's do it. Yeah. All right. But no, we have plenty to talk about, I'm sure. In the weeks ahead, we got Fixed coming out. Jim, are you excited about that?
Yes. I always enjoy staring at dogs' genitalia for 90 minutes. Again, it's Gennady. I'm sure it will be great. But it's like, wow, okay, can't wait for these visuals. All right. Anyway, As we close out this week's episode of Fine Tuning, I want to thank Eric Hersey and David Gray for the excellent job they do when it comes to editing and producing this podcast. Also want to ask a favor of you folks, if you could please head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, well, not just this show, Fine Tuning, but also Light the Fuse, okay? And also want to direct you to our social media stuff as we head out the door. Drew, where can the nice folks find you?
You can find me at Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt, usually on X and Instagram. So come on by, say hello, and yeah.
All right. And now, as for me, you can find me on X and Instagram as Jimmy Hill Media, then over at Facebook as Jimmy Hill Media News. And that's going to do it. So on behalf of Mr. Taylor, thanks for listening to this week's Fine Tuning, and we will be back soon.